Well, welcome everybody. Today we're excited to have Ryan with us, who is a business leader and an entrepreneur who has sold over $40 million of products globally. He's worked in more than 15 countries and excels at connecting the dots for success. He has a master's in digital marketing, and currently he is part of a family business, Professional Hair Labs, the choice of hair replacement professionals, as well as the world leader in cosmetic bonding. So welcome, Ryan.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here and excited for the chat.
So tell us a little bit about your journey, where you got started and how you ended up where you are now.
Yeah, so I suppose moving back into the early 2000s, a lot of my experience was kind of in sales and a little bit of marketing. And in 2009, obviously there was an economic downturn, and the industry that I was working in at the time was one of the ones that was predominantly hit hard. So, it was a blessing and a curse at the same time. There was an opportunity there where, my father was like, listen, I'm having a few challenges in my own business. And I was located in Ireland at the time, and he was living in Florida. And he was like, would you like to come over and see, what you can contribute and, what changes we could make. So initially I was like, no, I wasn't really interested. I was going to go in a different direction. But then I thought about it a little while, and myself and my wife, and I had one daughter at the time, we decided to make the move to Florida to give it a shot. So I had grown up in the hair replacement industry. My mother and my father owned hair replacement studios. My mother was a master technician, and my dad was just a business owner, entrepreneur type person. So I had a lot of knowledge around that. But in the kind of 1990s, my mother got chemical poisoning from the products that she was using. So it kind of forced her into early retirement. My dad sold his businesses, and he focused on developing a safe product line for technicians and for people who were wearing hairpieces and wigs. So that's where this company had started. So in 2009, I went over, I spent 6 months learning the intricacies of it. And then we literally stripped everything back, the branding, the messaging, the products, and we rebuilt everything and relaunched everything at the end of 2009, early 2010. And through very simple, marketing tactics, we tripled revenue. So we realized that we had validated, the products and the company, and there was a market there that, we obviously weren't fully penetrating the way we should have been. So that kind of led us on to realize we had an international scope for what we did. And in 2010, made the decision to move back to Ireland. We invested some of the money back here to open a European facility to distribute our products throughout the world. And naturally, that ended up becoming our principal manufacturing facility. So over the last 10 years, we've been able to take, the company, from, 6 figures to 7 figures to 8 figures. And then, we've been able to expand our operating space from, 2,000 square feet to where we're now between both locations operating at about 100,000 square feet. So it's been a journey. We've learned a lot along the way. We've been able to, effectively supply safe products to the marketplace where it was very badly needed. But now what we're doing is we're pivoting a little bit, and we're taking the same principles and methodologies we've applied to grow the company into the cosmetic space, to skincare, hair care, many different types of products. So it's a really fast phase of growth at this point, but it's also the point where we're learning probably the most we ever have, and that's what the exciting part is for us.
Incredible. I have a million questions. This is so awesome. First and foremost, you kind of mentioned in 2009 economic downturn, and I remember that moment because that was when we actually opened up our second school. And I always say with crisis comes opportunity. And right now we're in that crisis moment that we're going to have to pivot. And so can you give business owners, in particular salon owners, some advice right now as they're listening to this podcast?
Yeah, look, throughout the next, decade too, or, even the previous decade, I mean, businesses are like, I'm a firm believer now, and I was taught this a long time ago, your business should always feel broken, because if it doesn't feel broken, it's not growing. There's always going to be the next set of problems to solve and the next challenges. So if you become comfortable with that slight uncomfortability, it makes things a lot easier. I would always say, the simple solution is more than likely always the best one. So in times when things might not be going the way, you'd like it to go, or if there is an economic downturn, always, look at first and foremost, what problems can you solve in the industry and what types of products are needed to do that, whether it be a service or a physical product. When you get to the core of that, I think the rest becomes quite easy, because, the marketing side of things will do their own job if you have a decent level of marketing experience. It really is at its core about the problem that you're going to solve. So always focus on that first. And if it turns out, like, for example, when COVID hit, I'll give you a prime example. Technically, we weren't in Ireland, we weren't classified as an essential service. Mm-hmm. So the government was saying all non-essential services have to shut down. So we had to very quickly pivot, and within 48 hours, we had to turn around and make ourselves essential somehow. So we pivoted into the manufacturing of hand sanitizer. There was a huge global shortage. Every type of medical health, profession was in need of it. And that ended up, helping us save the company from having to, number one, let people go. And number two, having a massive impact where, we may not have come back from it, because look, our overheads are, quite high. And then, you roll that on week. We were in lockdown for 3 months. So it was tough. So I always think if you just take a moment to stop and look at the surroundings, there's always an opportunity. You have to be calm and find out what that is.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that, because that question, what problems can we solve, is constantly, as a team, always stepping back and asking that same question all the time. And it's interesting because, I'll sit down maybe with our leaders in our companies and I'm like, I don't think we have any problems. We're good. And you just hit it. Like, there's always a problem. There's always something that we need to solve, and we need to stay proactive with that. That's really powerful. And then you won't get blindsided by that as well.
Exactly. And I think, one of the things that I always experience is that if there are moments where things are just very calm and peaceful, that's concerning, because it shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. The moment you feel, comfortable, or, you might even get a little bit of complacency that slips in, because we're all human. There's always a bit of pain on the other end of that. So, in my experience, it's a turning wheel, and it should never feel like, it should never feel fully operational, because it's not the way with any business if you're growing.
Absolutely. You talked about how you had to basically rebrand your entire company. And we talk a lot about branding and understanding what values you have and your beliefs. So what were some of those processes you took to kind of take that old reputation you had and swing it to a new one? Because a lot of times when we talk to salon owners, they might not know what their brand is, or they might not like it, and they want to take those steps to, change it into what they want. So what were some of those steps that you took?
So looking back at that time, I mean, we were a very small operation. I mean, at that time it was in, low 6-figure revenue generation each year. And we were looking at this going, every single client that we had loved us, because, they had one-to-one connection with us. They knew us very well. And we were always at the other end of the phone, for them. But what was really happening, where we were really letting ourselves down, is that we weren't being taken, even though we knew we had a product that solved a very real problem. I don't think in our eyes we were being taken seriously enough as a company, and that came down to our branding and our messaging and the way we were positioning ourselves in the marketplace. So I wouldn't say we went full on kind of corporate branding and corporate messaging, but we definitely raised our level to a much more professional platform. We redid our logo. We stripped all the branding back for our products and rebranded every single product we had. We did a new website. And one of the key things that we did, I spent 3 months scraping the internet and manually building a list of every single hair replacement studio in the United States. And then what we did is we did a direct mail to them when we were ready, when we had everything in line, the website, the new products, the pricing, the portals online for them to order. And when we did, we split it into three. I remember it very clearly. We split it into three because we were kind of concerned with the lack of resources we had and the amount of, flyers that we were sending out. So we ended up being on the phone consistently from the point of those mailers. I'd say for the next 4 or 5 months solid, because every single day, we were getting, 30, 40, 50 calls, and we were converting a high level of those as well. So it became more about what I believe, the simple marketing strategy combined with the professional look and the messaging. It was the flyer we sent out was two sides. First side was, this new product, its benefits, and on the back were testimonials. It was so simple in nature, but it looked really well. And people responded to it. They picked up the phone, they called, they queried, they bought a bottle. And then, 4 weeks later, they called back and they bought, 5, 10, 25 bottles. And, and that's how the product started to get into, more and more studios. And, it was kind of enjoyable to watch that happen, because we knew the products that were being used for that purpose in the salons at the time. And a lot of them were fairly dangerous for the skin. A lot of them had, chemicals, derivatives of gasoline, and they were being applied directly to the skin. And there was no one there to monitor it, or there was no governing body to say that this shouldn't happen. So, our solution was really one of the first on the market that was able to provide a different way of doing things and a much safer way. So I think all of that combined really was, the key, I suppose, the key factor in why it grew so much.
That's incredible. And I love this model that we're talking about, because this is how you started to dominate the market, which is huge because of the simple differences. But one of the things that you hit on, and I would love for you to talk to salon owners through this process and salon leaders, is you said simple marketing techniques. And we've been going back to this as well too, getting testimonials, getting stories of people's lives that have been changed. And so can you give advice on why that needs to be done, A, and B, how to do it?
Yeah, so it needs to be done because at the core of everything, people buy from people. It's not buying from a company. And it's, people whose lives have literally, genuinely been impacted by the service of the product that they're using. Other people relate and connect to that, and I think we live in an age now where it's fairly easy to distinguish between, testimonials that are paid for and testimonials that are genuine. Mm-hmm. So that's why I believe it's important, because no matter how much you try to convince somebody to buy a product, ultimately, they're only ever going to buy it if they think it's going to solve the problem that they have. And sometimes they need to hear that from somebody other than you, how you do that. There's a multitude of different ways that we eventually ended up getting that done. So some of those ways were when we sent out products, we would get some of the high-level studios that were using our products, and we would send in, a TV crew, not a TV crew, a videographer for, say half a day, where that studio might have maybe 5 or 10 clients that, have literally loved our products. And we would just get 10 testimonials that way. Ultimately, it might cost us a couple of $1,000s, but the return on that level of testimonials was huge. Another way we did it was we would send out offers with our orders that would give people the ability to get discounts based upon submitting a testimonial to us, and that was quite successful for us. And it's just about a way to connect with as many people as possible in the simplest way. And the simplest way for us was the hair salons, because they had the audience, they had the clients, and it made it very easy for us to just send someone in for half a day and get those testimonials and then supply us with the finished products.
Amazing. How do you recommend for salons to get involved with your product line?
So I'd love to say it's this big, intricate process, but I believe at the end of the day, if the customer service is pristine and it's 100%, and they love your product, they want to be involved anyway. because ultimately, that's the connection that, technicians want. It's the connection that business owners want. They want to know that if they pick up the phone, you're at the other end of the phone, and they have a consistent individual that they can speak with. And I think over the years that's exactly what we've built. And that's why I think a lot of the studios, we don't even so much really have to ask them anymore. They're in most cases asking us, it's like, look, we'd love to provide some, testimonials for you. And, it's been a really smooth process on that level for us, because I believe we've provided such a high level of customer service to them.
Amazing. So we started your introduction with $40 million of products. That is an incredible number right there. So congratulations to that. But one of the challenges that we hear a lot of the times is that it's hard to sell products. Is that it's not easy, especially in this industry. A lot of times they don't want to be salespeople. But talk a little bit about and give some pointers on how you accomplished $40 million in products.
I think it's simply by just knowing where our knowledge and our expertise could make the most impact. So one of the key parts of what we've done over the years is that the education that we've provided, we've never charged for, because ultimately we believe if people understand the mechanics and the functions of the products, that will naturally just sell the products for us. So I think the education part was huge. We did videos, look, we've tried everything. We've tried explainers, we've tried 3D videos, and ultimately what this really comes down to, the thing that's had the biggest impact for us was quick 30-second to a minute videos that show people how to apply it, how to clean and clean the scalp. So the more time goes on, I think it's a well-known fact, and the more we kind of consume media, the lower our attention span gets. So people no longer want to sit there and look 5, 10, 20 minutes at a video. They want a brief overview, and they want to know the key points of what they have to do and why they have to do it, and then allow them to go explore it. And in some cases, make the mistakes themselves so they know how to rectify them. So we found most of our success from that level has come from the shorter videos, where, we had videos where we did, 20, 30, 40 minutes, but realistically people will only they'll force themselves through 10 minutes of it, and then that'll be the end of it. So I think the short videos and the short, snappy informational pieces are the way to go.
I love the fact that you have a master's in digital marketing. And so I would love for you to talk to salon owners why they need a marketing team and what advice you give to salons, because I think that's one of the missing pieces in all of my companies, but also in the companies that we coach as well.
Of course. And, whether it's a team or whether it's, it's a single individual, depending on the size of the company, I do think it's vitally important, because if you're not out there marketing in some capacity, you're not going to be heard. And realistically, in the world we live in, whether it's advertising or organic, whatever the channels are, you need to be loud sometimes to kind of come over the shoulders of even some of, the bigger competitors or the bigger companies that are doing, whatever anyone is doing in this space. So, this is why you're trying, you're seeing a lot of, the smaller niche companies being able to make a bigger impact, I believe, because they understand the market better than these bigger companies. You can have all the data and all these 200-page reports all you want, and it's great, statistics to have, but realistically, you're seeing a lot of the smaller companies come in now and they're making a huge dent because they know exactly what they're doing and they know exactly what their audience is looking for. So I think having, whether it's 1, 2, or 10 people, it's vitally important that the people that you're working with understand the industry you're in. What I found over the years is that, we worked with a few different, marketing agencies, consultants, and eventually, our own team. But if they're specializing in other industries, they're going to find it very hard to kind of penetrate your industry. Experience counts in cosmetics or hair or beauty tenfold, more so than most industries, because you have to really know what your audience is after. And if you don't, unfortunately, you're going to pay a large price to acquire that information through, say, advertising or through surveys, whatever the means of gaining that information are. But I wouldn't, for a moment, if you have a business owner that's doing their own marketing, I would say move out of that as quickly as possible, because it's a consuming space to be in, and you need someone dedicated to it full time.
Wow. Okay, this is great, because I would say most salons, including ours, don't have that budget for it. So how do you start with it? So what's the best place to start?
So obviously, to make any, I suppose to make any decision, you need data in which to make that on. So naturally, where we started is that most of our stuff was built with SEO and organic, marketing. We actually didn't spend a dime on advertising until the last 3 years, believe it or not.
Wow.
So yeah, when we decided we were going to do that, we allocated, a budget of 10% of our revenue to advertise and gather data. And when you get that data, you see, most of it was spent through Google Ads and say, social media, but you get an opportunity to see, what the demographic is of the people who are engaging with you, what you're, whether you're running them to a form or whether you're running them to a checkout page. Who's dropping off. You get all of this really high level data that allows you to make the necessary changes to your pages. And when you start to get a decent conversion rate, ultimately you have the information there to hand off to somebody who is kind of either a few steps ahead of you or 10 steps ahead of you and knows what they're doing. Because if you don't have that, they're going to have to get that for you. So you're actually going to end up tripling up on your expense, because you got the expense of advertising, you've got the percentage of sale or lead, and then you've got the agency fees on top of that. Mm-hmm. So realistically, you're going 3 levels deep when, if you just do the very short bit of homework at the very beginning, you only have to have that surface level input of the advertising budget, because without that, you have nothing, you don't know anything.
Yeah, so good. And, I think one of the biggest things that is a missing piece right now is, staffing in the salons across the nation, right? And so I'm like, well, market, what your culture is so that people want to be a part of what you're doing. So are you having problems with staffing? And B, what is your solution for that?
All of the above. I think it's a global issue at the moment. And if there was a company, regardless of how much companies are paying, right now it's, if you're looking for a job, it's a great environment to be in, because you've got companies that are offering extremely high salaries, offering extremely large benefits, but at the end of it, they're still having problems filling those roles. So some of the stuff we've done, obviously, there's added bonuses, there's increased benefits. But really, at the end of the day, that's all you can do aside from putting out, the culture of your company. It's something that we haven't been great at, marketing the culture of our company. We kind of let that do the talking when people come in. And look, we have the guys and the men and the women who have been on our team for some time. They've been here for a long time. And we do whatever we can to make sure that they're happy, because part of the company succeeding is making sure that they're hitting their personal goals, and those personal goals don't always equate to a monetary value. They want to make sure that they're successful, they're achieving. And I always believe that when you're setting the goals inside of the company, which is something that even during our interview process we got to give inclinations of, you set your team up to win gracefully. If you set the goals too large and they consistently fail, that's going to be part of what's lodged in their brain, and it's going to completely derail their confidence. It's going to derail their motivation. So if you take it slow and steady and you put small wins, over a year, they add up to huge wins for everyone. So I think ultimately that's really key, is that, you have to make sure that when you're bringing on, a new team member, that they understand is that their job coming into the company is, you want them to work autonomously. You want them to have the flexibility and the freedom to do what they've been brought in to do and bring their expertise. Now, granted, that's going to take some training and some guidance and direction, but ultimately, their ultimate success lies, with the direct effort that they put into the role. So that's the way we run our internal organization. We allow people the space to be creative, we allow them the space to make mistakes, because look, at the end of the day, if a mistake is made, in my eyes, it's more so a lesson. You've invested in that mistake, and you don't expect it to happen again, but there's a learning curve in it. You've lost the money spending, or whatever it is, or maybe it's the loss of an account, on occasion or two. But ultimately, I look at it as an investment in the experience. So you won't let that happen again. But you certainly don't hold weight over somebody's head for it. It's this is part of the job. This is part of the learning. I mean, we make mistakes every day. So as long as the people on your team know that, I think it makes it for a very comfortable working environment.
I love that. Tina asked you earlier how salons can get involved with your company, and I think we skimmed over what your company actually is too fast. So I want to give you an opportunity to really explain, because you have adhesives, cleaners, shampoos, like you have a whole array of products, and it's an up and coming. It's always been a market, but it's more so in the forefront right now, that I really want to give you the opportunity to talk about your products and your company.
Yeah. So initially, the company, when it was created, it was very niche. It was for the non-surgical hair replacement industry. That's what our product line was built for and tailored for. It solved a very real problem of individuals who were using products that were not safe to attach the wigs or hair pieces to their scalp. They were also having issues with it holding. So over the years, we developed a 7-step process, which we call the science of full head bonding. And it's a series of cleansers, scalp treatments, and shampoos that allow the skin to retain its pH balance. So when you apply the wig, that you don't have a lot of the oils from the sebaceous glands penetrating the bond, and ultimately the wig lifting from the scalp. So we were doing that for 25 plus years. More recently, when we started to diversify, as I said earlier, we're applying those same principles and methodologies now to the cosmetic industry. So we're doing a lot of skincare, further hair care products and body care. For example, we have a couple of, our head chemist loves creating. So he kind of pushes the boundaries of what's possible from a cosmetic innovation perspective. We're working on a couple of more recent products where we're using, say, snail secretion for moisturizers to retain, moisture in the skin and create barriers. Or one of the ones he was working on the other day, he's working on a skincare product that contains bee venom, which basically gives a Botox effect without the need for actual Botox. So we're always innovating and developing new products. So whether it's tanning lotions or moisturizers or hand moisturizers or sanitizers, there's a whole range of products we're working on. So right now at the moment we have, I'd say, off the shelf probably 35 types of products. By the end of this year it's going to be 60, and by the end of 2024 we aim to have 500 products off the shelf, which means that companies across the world will be able to come in and pick from a catalog. And if they say, this is the type of products we want, but we'd like a few adjustments, we already have the base formula, through stability and testing. So we can actually take those products, and with very little effort, we can make the adjustments and produce, 5 kg, 10 kg, 5,000 kg. We have the ability to do it all. And I think that's part of what a lot of the larger companies can't facilitate. We have the ability to build relationships with companies so they can etch their way in the industry, and they don't have to spend a ton of money, and they can lean on our experience from, say, anything from compliance to label design to everything. We can help them with the whole process. And I think that's part of it's not just us slapping a label on a product and off you go. Everything that goes out our door is, abides by strict GMP compliance. So we have ISO certification, and we make sure that, we follow the European side, because it's a lot more stringent in terms of its compliance. And then, we also take those principles and apply them to the US market. So whatever's being supplied is 100% safe, using the best ingredients and the most up-to-date ingredients that can be used.
Incredible. What a great way for salons to pivot right now and diversify their market. And so what's the best way for them to get a hold of you and to find out more about being involved with selling your products within their salon?
You go to our website, prohairlabs.com. Actually, as we speak, within the next 48 hours, our new website is launching with a very, direct communication point to our team to develop products or to, just say get off the shelf products. That's the easiest way to contact us. But look, we're on all major social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Any type of platform that they operate on, we're there, so they can reach out to us there, and it'll be directed to the appropriate person.
I love that. So as we kind of wrap this up, normally we'd say like what's next, but it sounds like you have that well planned out into 2024. So that's awesome. But what best final piece of advice do you have for salon professionals and salon owners?
I would say just be mindful of where you invest your time and your ears, because look, there's a lot of information online at the moment, and a lot of people giving what they call, in quotation, solid advice, and like the wrong piece of advice could derail you for years, and you won't come back from it. So I would say the best thing is, as a salon owner, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of different, like, look, you're an owner, so you're looking in so many different directions for how you can build your company, improve it, just be better as a whole. And if you fall into the wrong communication channel, it could be detrimental. So I just say, take your time, take everything in, and refine it down to a couple of channels. And then when you have everything, when you have an offer or a service, just focus solely on that. Typically, the rule we have here is that when we have a new offer or service, we don't take our eyes off it till it hits $1 million, and then we start to move it out and expand it, because shiny object syndrome is a killer for most business owners. There's always something new and something right here that just is waiting to distract you from your goal. So just stay focused, be careful of the information you take in, and just have some non-negotiables for yourself, where you just know ultimately your eyes will not come off of what you're trying to achieve.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you, Ryan, so much for being on the podcast today.
No, thank you very much. It's been really fun, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ryan, and best of luck to your continued success.
Thanks very much.
Bye, everybody.